All right, today we're jumping into a philosophical question so huge, so fundamental, that it basically sparked an intellectual war back in the Middle Ages. We're talking about the problem of universals. Now, this isn't just some dusty old debate. It's about the very nature of reality, and its echoes are everywhere, from religion to our modern legal systems. The questions they were fighting over, we're still trying to answer them.
So let's start with what sounds like a simple question. We all agree that individual humans exist. You know, you, me, your neighbor. That's a given. But what about humanity itself? Is that a real, actual entity, or is it just a word we use to group similar beings together? That question right there is the heart of the problem of universals.
To get a bit more precise, a universal is just a quality or a property that lots of different things can have in common. Take the color red, for example. We see a red apple, a red car, and a red stop sign. Okay, so the apple, the car, the sign, they're all individual particular things. But what about the redness itself? Is that a real thing floating out there in the world? Or is it just an idea in our heads? That's the core question we're exploring.
So here's how we're going to break down this great debate. First up, we'll look at the ancient questions that got the fire started. Then we'll meet the two opposing sides. You've got Team Realism and Team Nominalism. After that, we'll check out a middle ground compromise. And finally, we'll get to why this philosophical argument had, believe it or not, actual life or death consequences.
The whole stage for this medieval showdown was really set by the Roman philosopher Boëtius. Now, he wasn't trying to start some kind of philosophical war. He was just genuinely trying to figure out how reality works. But the questions he posed, they would ignite centuries of really fierce arguments.
Boëthius laid out these four key questions. First, are universals like humanity or treeness real things out there in the world, or are they just ideas we cook up in our heads? Second, if they are real, are they physical things or something immaterial, like a spiritual blueprint? Third, do they exist separately, like some perfect form of a tree in a Platonic heaven, or do they only exist inside of actual physical trees? And finally, here's a tricky one. Can we even think about a universal concept without picturing a specific example? Seriously, try to think of squareness without a particular square popping into your head. It's tough.
Okay, let's meet the first contender in this intellectual brawl, Team Realism. The realists' answer to Boëthius' questions was a resounding, absolute yes. They were totally convinced that universals are real. In fact, for the most hardcore realists, these universals were even more real than the physical objects we see and touch every day.
So the most extreme version of this view was called, fittingly, exaggerated realism. The main idea here is that the universal form of humanity is a single, actual entity that exists completely separate from any of us. You and me, all the individual people, we aren't the primary reality. We're just participating in this one, true, universal form of humanity. For these guys, the universal was the real deal, and our individuality was almost like a defect, a falling short of that perfect form.
Now, on the complete opposite side of the ring, you have Team Nominalism. Thinkers like Roscellinus looked at what the realists were saying and basically said, no way, absolutely not. They came up with an idea that was radically different and, for its time, totally revolutionary.
This chart really lays out the massive gap between them. Realists believed there's a real, universal humanity that we all connect to. Nominalists said, nope, there's nothing but individual humans. They argued that universals don't exist out in the world, and they don't even exist as concepts in our minds. For them, a word like human is just a name, nomen in Latin, which is where they get the name nominalism. It's just a label, a puff of air, a convenient sound we make to talk about a group of similar things. That's it.
Well, with two positions that are so far apart, it was probably inevitable that someone would try to find a middle path. That someone was the brilliant and pretty controversial philosopher Peter Abelard. He came up with a compromise that tried to salvage the best bits from both sides.
Abelard's solution is called conceptualism. He actually sided with the nominalists on one really big point. Universals are not real things that exist out in the world. There is no humanity floating around in some other dimension. But, and this is a huge but, he completely disagreed with them about what's going on inside our heads. He argued that we do form abstract concepts. So the idea of humanity might not exist out in the world, but it is very real as a concept inside our minds. It's a mental tool we use to make sense of all the individual humans we meet.
So let's do a quick recap with this little scorecard here. Exaggerated realism says a big yes to both questions. Universals are real in the world, and we have concepts for them in our minds.
Nominalism says a hard no to both. There's nothing real out there and no universal concepts in here either, just words. And then you have conceptualism, which splits the difference. A no to real universals in the world, but a yes to having real universal concepts in our minds.
At this point, you might be thinking, okay, this is a pretty cool intellectual puzzle, but why did people get so worked up about it? Well, the answer is that this was so much more than just a philosophical game. The stakes were absolutely massive. This debate struck right at the heart of medieval faith, science, and society.
See, the problem was that some really core Christian doctrines seemed to need realism to even make sense. Take the Trinity, 3 persons in one God. That idea kind of rests on 3 individuals being able to share one universal divine essence. From a nominalist point of view, that just looked like believing in 3 separate gods. Or how about original sin? That doctrine required a universal human nature for all of humanity to have shared in Adam's fall. Even the idea of a single unified church seemed to depend on realism being true.
With stakes that high, the backlash was, well, swift and brutal. Nominalism wasn't just seen as a bad idea, it was seen as a direct attack on the foundations of the Christian faith. And so, in the year 1093, at the Council of Soissons, its ideas were officially condemned, and its biggest champion, Roscellinus, was branded a heretic.
And the shockwaves didn't stop with theology. They shook the world of philosophy, too. I mean, think about it. Without a universal human nature, what happens to the idea of a universal moral law? It kind of vanishes, right? All you're left with is an ethics based on either what God commands or just a cold calculation of consequences. And even bigger than that, nominalism threatened to pull the rug out from under the entire philosophical project up to that point, which was pretty much all built on explaining the universe through these real universal forms.
To bring this a little closer to home, let's try a quick thought experiment from one of our sources. When you think of the word America, what actually comes to your mind? What are you thinking of? Is it an image of a map? A set of ideals? Like liberty and justice? Or is it just the sound of the word itself? What is that thing you're thinking with?
And that brings us right back to the central question of this entire medieval great debate. When you use an abstract concept, justice, beauty, humanity, are you connecting with something real that actually exists outside of you, or are you just using a word as a tool, a convenient label for a bunch of individual things? The medievals fought tooth and nail over the answer, and honestly, it's a question that, in a lot of ways, we're still trying to figure out today.